I would advise them to use one of the laws in 48 laws of power. Is your duty to make your boss shine. How do you make your boss shine? Now that's where we apply psychology. You've got to rub their ego. Okay? Explain more.
With me today is a fellow Gen Z, Makau, whose bio I'm going to read. Masi is a HR rising star, career coach, and culture champion and founder of magazine Career Axis. She's helping professionals and businesses simplify their process and understand the unique lens Gen Z brings into the workplace. Masi, karibu sana to the podcast. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Han, for inviting me today to discuss about this topic, Gen Z's at workplace. What do they really want? Because it's been a topic of discussion, and sometimes I feel like there is a lot of misunderstanding. So I'm so happy to discuss and demystify some of the myths that people have got about Gen Z's.
Very interesting. I'm very happy to have you.
Yeah.
So before we start, maybe you can tell us a fun fact about you, something we don't find on LinkedIn.
I'm ambivert. Most people think that I'm an extrovert, but I'm an ambivert. If I'm with people, well and good, we can interact, and still I enjoy my own company.
As a Gen Z, have you worked with Gen Zs before?
Yeah, not only Gen Zs, but I've worked with all the generations. I've had the pleasure of working with millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, and my age mates who are Gen Zs. And from my own experience, I can say that each and every generation has got its own treasures. I've really learned a lot from millennials, baby boomers, and also Gen Zs. In my company, I've had a privilege to work with two of them, and they were doing excellent job. So I was wondering, do most organizations complain about Gen Zs because they are from different generations, or why do they regret? But of course, I don't ignore the fact that as many as we are, we also have got different personalities, and not all of us who are good, or also not all of us who are bad. So what I'm so much against is basically generalizing all people together. If you had bad experience with Gen Zs, it doesn't mean all of us are bad, and also the vice versa is true.
Okay.
Yes.
You've brought so many things to light, but since you said you've worked with different generations, what would you say, even though every Gen Z is different, we do have some common factors? So what are these characteristics that set Gen Z different? What are these characteristics that set Gen Z apart from other generations? What drives them in the workplace? Those kind of things.
All right. One common thing which I've found in all Gen Zs is that most of them are tech savvies. If you check, Gen Zs are people who were born between 1997 to 2012. And you'll see that most of them have grown in digital era. Because in 2007 is when we had our first functional smartphone, which was iPhone. And of course, most of Gen Zs were very young. And again, if you check also very well, when COVID-19 came, most of them were either almost graduating from campus, or they were just entering in workplace. And we know what COVID-19 of course brought about. We had remote working thing, and it became a norm. And for those who were in university also, they started studying online. And actually COVID-19 showed a lot of us who are young that it's very possible to work and also study online, and that's now what we expected. And we know we all remember that immediately after COVID-19 there was a lot of technological improvements, whereby 1 year later we had the rise of artificial intelligence, what most people know as ChatGPT. So all these things have really impacted Gen Zs. Most of them are tech savvies. They want to work from home, something which, in as much as other generations are also embracing, but Gen Zs seem to embrace it even more.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you've mentioned the Gen Zs are tech savvies.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most outstanding thing which I've learned from Gen Zs, or rather which I've observed from them. The other thing which I feel also we are so much misunderstood is Gen Zs are looking for work which actually matches their values, and that's why we have a myth that most Gen Zs are job hoppers, but that's not the case. What people ought to understand is that, again, with all that period, we've had economical challenges. Okay, so with economical challenges, it also means increased inflation rates, and increased inflation rates means higher living standards. So things are expensive. If Gen Z is demanding for a higher salary, it doesn't mean that they are entitled. So another factor I've found out is that they know what they need. They know what they need, and it's basically affected because of the period we are living in. Could tell me why? Here in Kenya, we know what's happening. We've got high taxes. So there is no way you're going to be paid a little amount of money and you survive with it. So when you demand a higher salary, or you quit your job to look for a higher salary, it doesn't mean that you are entitled to other people's money. Yeah.
Wow. So I do have a bunch of follow-up questions, but let's get back to the digital survey thing.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's get back to the Gen Zs are tech savvies.
Yeah.
So how do you think companies should lean into that and use it to their advantage? If you're having Gen Zs as employees and they live online, I know for a fact I live online. I'm on TikTok, Instagram every time, every second. So how do you think companies can use this to their advantage instead of like trying to quiet it down?
Yeah, and this question has aroused various feelings because I'm a career coach. I also do social media management. That's something I've never posted this anywhere, but I do social media management, and I manage different pages for different people. And I've had several cases whereby most of my clients have been pinned down by their employers to not post anything on social media. And you can imagine right now we are living in technological era. Where I come from, we say people, watu wanakula jina, translated as people hit names. And social media is giving us a free chance to brand ourselves out there. Imagine before the technological era came about, artists had to pay brands. I'm forgetting the names, but we had producers. So if you want to be a famous upcoming artist, you had to pay for those brands so that they can support you. But nowadays, that's not the case. We've got social media platforms for free. If you want to grow your name as Anne, nobody is there limiting you. They are not telling you that you should join blah blah blah. It's up to you and the consistency. Again, there is rise of digital marketing. We know what is happening. A lot of people are buying things online. Personally, I work remotely. I get clients from online. So I think like companies can take advantage of this. Young people being good in social media platforms, they can be used as digital marketers for that organization. They can be influencers. You tell them, if you bring more clients in our organization, of course, you're going to earn this commission. Again, with the rise of now artificial intelligence, it is also increasing productivity. And I'm so much surprised to see some organization restricting their employees from using AI like ChatGPT. Why would you restrict an employee from using ChatGPT and it's here to stay? So instead of prohibiting them from using this technology, now you can use it to increase productivity. Something which was taking, for instance, 2 hours, within even less than 15 minutes, you already have it. So I think it's high time for us as organization to look on the positive side of it. We are in 2023, for God's sake. We are not in 2010. So there is no way we can continue living with 2010 principles in 2025. Another thing which I think organizations also can do, they can come up with social media policies. They should be so clear. Me working in an organization, it doesn't mean I shouldn't build a brand on social media. As long as maybe I'm not mentioning your organization, if you are not interested, then it should not be a reason to prohibit me from building a brand there. We've seen what's happening with influencers. How much they're being paid just for posting a single thing. So employers should be there to empower the employees and not to pin them down.
Wow.
Yes.
You also mentioned something about Gen Z being job hoppers.
Yeah.
And I do believe as much as we value the paycheck, we also value purpose. Like if a job is not serving me, I can leave.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the reason behind that? What's driving that? And why do we have so much courage as Gen Zs to just leave jobs?
Yeah, another reason which actually leads to a lot of those job hopping, among many reasons, of course, I'd mentioned about paycheck, as you reminded me, and the other thing is about purpose. I guess Gen Z is very different, especially from Gen Xers. Gen Xers were really hardworking people. They are people who believed that you need to work hard no matter what your organization does, because I'm sorry to say, I tend to feel like a lot of them were operating from what I call the scarcity mindset, whereby they say, right now I'm employed here. If I leave this organization, where will I get another job from? So they were so much afraid to leave the organization. So whether the organization aligned with their personal values or not, for them what mattered was, let me just work here so that I can get money. Also remember, in that period, work was part of their identity. If you're working in a good in a good organization, it means you've got higher rank in the social class of the society. And again, working hard, or rather white collar job, meant that you're going to earn a lot of money and you're going to do better, you and your children. Unlike us right now, if you work in an organization which you feel like whatever it's serving is not really aligned with what you truly believe in, a lot of them are leaving those organizations and pursue something which is actually related to their personal values.
So you'd say culture plays a role in that as well? Like
absolutely, yeah.
Toxic culture, and we're gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned about toxic culture, and it reminded me another characteristic of Gen Z. Another now third factor leading to job hopping is the emergence of mental well-being. Everybody is talking about mental well-being, and Gen Zers, unlike the other previous generation, they are not tolerating anything which is affecting their mental health. True. Remember, they already have mental health issues. Contributed to the factors I've already told you. Like, for instance, inflation is too high, and you as my employer, now you're giving me more pressure. Tutafocus na nini sasa? And imagine they say you spend a lot of time in your workspace. Okay, from 8 to 5, you are in office. So how are you going to survive if you have toxic bosses? It might be very difficult for them. So that's another reason leading to Gen Z's job hopping. As long as you're tampering with their mental health, they are ready to exit. But again, I like being careful on this point. There is difference between being toxic and also pressure. We understand we've got different types of organization or industries, and some industries need someone to work under pressure. So it's just a very thin line between toxicity and working under pressure. And I would advise my fellow Gen Zs actually to be considerate, because if your work needs you to be working under pressure, it doesn't mean it's toxic. However, if you feel you can't work on that, maybe you can consider changing careers. A good example I like giving is about medical doctors. For medical doctors, they really work under pressure. You've got to work under pressure, right? So it doesn't, but again, even if it means they should be working under pressure, their mental well-being should also be checked. It's so much disheartening to see a lot of doctors committing suicide. I think, was it this year or last year, we had several cases of doctors committing suicide. So again, it's also the duty of the HR to take care of the employees' mental well-being.
Okay, since you've mentioned HR Stapo, how could you advise HRs as a fellow Gen Z and a career coach? You've worked with Gen Zs, you've seen in different generations. How would you advise them to build that culture or mental awareness in their offices, in their workplaces, to take care of their employees as well?
Right, there are several ways you can improve your employees' mental well-being. The first one, which is very little, little in quotes, it's not little in real sense, is actually recognizing your employees. I always tell people, you see, when you just tell someone thank you, you really you've done good work, blah blah blah, they'll feel recognized. Okay, you can either recognize them through the word of mouth, or still you can increase some perks in their salary. Again, we also have, there is you can organize for team building activity. A lot of people, as I told you earlier on, we work very hard from Monday to Friday. And now, as an organization, you could plan for a team building activity whereby on Saturday we arouse the inner child in us, just enjoying ourselves, and no one is there to judge us. We dance, we do everything. Okay. The other thing we can embrace is flexible working. Okay. So as an organization, you could introduce either 1 day or 2 days whereby that employee could be working from home. But again, when it comes to flexible working hours, as an organization, you've got to be so clear. Okay. You need to set the KPIs very clearly. At the end of the day, as an employee, you're expected to have done A, B, C, D. The other thing you need to do in flexible working hours, you also need to incorporate it in your policies. And micromanagement has been a thing which has been prohibiting a lot of organizations from implementing this policy of working from home. Yeah.
Something else we know about Gen Zs, even from just watching news, is that they are bold and outspoken. So if they say something that's not fitting them, they'll speak about it, right? So how should the leaders be able to take this feedback and change?
Wow. Yeah, that's another character which is so distinct from the other generations. The other day, I was speaking to one of my friends, and he was telling me he has a Gen Z in the house, and he was speaking to the daughter, and daughter asked him, "Dad, why are you shouting at me? It's just the two of us here." so lower your tone. And he told me how surprised he was when he remembered for him, the mother could shout and shout and shout and shout and shout, and he could do nothing. And that is also what is happening with a lot of Gen Zs here. Giving your leader a real-time feedback, it doesn't mean you disrespect them. One thing I would like to advise my seniors is, we understand you've got all the years of experience. We understand you've been here in this field for many years. We understand maybe also you've been working with someone who's never challenged you before. And we respect that. But still, we as people, we've got our own opinions. And what is affecting most of our bosses is what I call infantilization, whereby they think that we are kids still. And me having small brothers, I totally understand their point of view. Sometimes you feel like, this is just a kid. It's just a kid. They can't advise me. But still, we have our own experiences. And that's why I always advocate for what we call mentorship and reverse mentorship. Now, you've got, you as boss, you have over 20 years of experience. You've been working on this certain thing for the last 20 years. For me, maybe I have 1 or 2 years of experience. Of course, I need to learn from you. But also for me, I've got what now we have as an advantage. I've got the digital savviness. I can teach you on how to do certain things. So what is important is we just embrace learning mindset. Know that despite of how old that person is, I can always learn from them. And when people feel like they are recognized, it also motivates them. If you are my boss and I tell you something which I didn't like and you correct on that, I'll feel being part of that group, because I see that I'm working with a listening boss. But if I tell you and you don't listen to me, then I'll be demotivated. I'll never even contribute in any of the meeting. And again, we understand that the other day there was a research that was carried out, and it was discovered that most Kenyan youth spend a lot of time in their social media platforms. And of course, from social media is where we learn about emerging trends. Maybe I could have seen an emerging trend which, if we implement it as an organization, it could be for our advantage. But now I know my boss doesn't listen to me. So that means what? Even if I see any innovation which could be fit for organization, then I'm never coming to tell you as a boss, because I know at the end of the day, you are never going to listen to me. And organizations need to go with trends for them to stand the test of time. We all know why Nokia really failed, because it didn't go with the trends of that specific period. And I want to imagine, maybe back then we had also young people who knew what was already going on, but now because maybe the senior administration or rather executive was at a comfort zone, they didn't see any need maybe to listen to maybe the junior. I want to assume, I don't know what happened. So in nutshell, leaders listening is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
I feel like what you've said, on paper, it sounds amazing. Let's have leaders listen to young people because they have many ideas. But hey, kwa ground.
I know kwa ground vitu ni tofauti.
Let me ask you, have you ever seen a place where, because you're a career coach,
yeah,
have you ever had a story or of a company, you don't even have to mention the name, just say yes or no, that actually implements that? Where Gen Zs are hard, where outer workplace where you as a Gen Z, you've gone there and you've spoken to these other generations and you felt respected, you felt heard, you felt, hey, I know what I'm talking about and you're listening to me. Once. Wapi?
Wapi? Okay, sijapata. I haven't met with a young man or a young lady telling me their leaders do listen to them. But now when you position yourself as a consultant, they listen to you.
So sorry.
Organizations which listen to people, I haven't. Okay, do I have any in mind? Honestly, if I have got to think about it, I don't think I have heard of any.
What about startups? Do you think startups are...
Startups do listen to people. And that's why a lot of Gen Zs also prefer working in startups than in established big companies. Because, and that one brings me to another aspect. What you had asked me earlier on about now giving of feedback. If you check most of these big companies and also government, they've got what we call their hierarchical. Where is this good? Hierarchical. I hope that's the name, but it's drawn from the word hierarchy. Hierarchy type of organizational structure, whereby you've got to follow a certain protocol. For you to speak to this person, you've got to go through A, B, C, D. Okay? Yeah. So you can't give real-time feedback. And also, most of those people in such kind of organization, especially established and governments, they feel like they've already made it. Sometimes, I'm careful with my words. Sometimes careful listening to young people might be so difficult for them. But for startups, since they want to grow, they've got to be very careful and listening to each and everyone. Yeah.
This is why I think I kind of love my job, because it's a startup and we are mostly young people.
Yeah.
And our ideas, you've seen, we're just Gen Zs mostly here. So wherever we're in a meeting, you feel heard and you feel like my ideas, you're drawn into the front line, so you get to make the decisions. You get to make the decisions.
Wow, keep
but
it
it's
up.
a team.
That's beautiful.
So I think people should.
And that's why I guess your employees are always happy and they are confident about this. Like you can always tell. Yeah. So let the administration, or rather the executive, keep it up.
I hope wamesikia.
Wamesikia. Neto aje salute.
How would you advise Gen Zs to like speak up? Especially if they feel they're like been silent, but how would you advise them to speak up and give feedback or ideas in a way that doesn't sound rude? Because we've been accused of being rude. Gen Zs, they're so rude. They don't want to work. They don't, those kind of things. How would you advise a Gen Z in that position to be able to speak up for themselves and for their ideas? How would you?
When it comes to that matter, first of all, I would advise them to use one of the laws in 48 laws of power. Is your duty to make your boss shine.
Ooh.
So, how do you make your boss shine? Now that's where we apply psychology. You've got to rub their ego. Okay? Explain more. We are all human beings, and I like saying that. So if today and you praise me, I feel good about you. I want you to be drawn close to me. I would love you to be maybe my friend, because you always tell me good things, and if I'm your boss, you do all things in time. Okay, and even sometimes you tell me you even surpass you surpass what we had set for you. Okay, so through that way they'll be impressed, and before you know it, you'll be close to them. Okay, another mistake I see as young people and also employees in different ages too is basically talking ill of their bosses out there with their employees. What if, as I told you earlier on, you rub their egos you surpass the quality of the work they had given you, and also you become closer to them. And the good book tells us in certain, I don't know which verse, it tells us that correct each other in love. Okay? So in as much as they are our bosses, we also have to correct them in love. Okay? So if you're if kama nimekukasirisha and you haven't spoken it out, we are not angels. How am I going to know it? So always you can talk, the two of you, but it depends with the type of organization. As I told you earlier on, we know that most startups yao inakuwaga ni ile flat type of hierarchy, whereby if you want to talk to the CEO, you can always talk to them. Okay? But if it's a hierarchical one, hiyo inaweza kuwa tough. Yeah, so basically what I would echo is just as the good book encourages us, correct them in love. Yeah.
So easy to say it. But Kokran is different.
Yeah, I know it's difficult.
So what do you think is one thing Gen Zs are right about in the workplace and something other generations should learn from?
Risk-taking.
Risk-taking.
And entrepreneurial mindset.
We are seeing risk takers.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, in my career, one of the reasons why I love my career is because I meet different people from different age groups and also with different mindsets. So when I meet with millennials and Gen Xers, most of them are so much afraid to leave their jobs. But I always say I don't blame them. It's basically because of how they grew up. When they were growing up, job security was a thing back then. Okay? But for us, we've got freelancing. You know, you can do ABCD from the comfort of your house and get the money. And that is not the case, right? So, and also most of us have got entrepreneurial mindset. Bearing in mind that when most of us were clearing school, and bearing in mind we still have others in school, and it's publicly known, especially here in Kenya, we've got high unemployment rates. Most of them sought to go the entrepreneurial way, something which is not in other generations. So I really hope that other generation could be also high risk takers and also have that entrepreneurial mindset. What I always encourage someone, yesterday I was in a summit whereby we were being advised on how you can use your experience and your knowledge to give you more money. And that's the same thing, exactly same thing. I want to challenge my fellow Gen Zers and also millennials. What is that you've been doing for the last 10 years? What is it that you're so good at and you're still sitting there saying you can do it, you have to find a job? That shouldn't be the case. Use whatever you have in the hand, as Moses was told, to give you your bread and butter. Yes.
Yeah. So apart from entrepreneurship, where else do you think Gen Z have room and space to grow in the workplace? In work, like where do you think they can thrive and shine most?
Yeah. Again, where I think they can thrive in is basically using AI for their own advantage. Okay.
Tech.
Yeah, tech. Exactly. They can use tech for their own advantage. You don't have to spend a lot of hours doing something and unaweza fanyiwa na ChatGPT. But again, that one doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful with what we're doing. Because one disgusting thing I've seen is when people are just copy-pasting everything that ChatGPT or Gamma or whatever AI has given them without counter-checking it. So I feel like that one can really help Gen Zs, bearing in mind that honestly, having interacted with a lot of people, I can confidently say a lot of older people don't have knowledge about this AI. In fact, another thing I do chini ya maji, I do those relatively okay. Let me not say her. I train millennials and Gen Xers and baby boomers about some of the AI tools which can be helpful to them. And let me tell you, Han, some of the basic AI tools to them, is like which is like an innovation. It's a surprise to them. So we can take that advantage for our own advantage, because a lot of people are not enlightened about artificial intelligence tools we have out here.
It reminded me of a time I was trying to teach my grandmother how to use email. Hey. I felt like I was Elon Musk.
I know.
It was tough.
Yeah. Yes.
So Gen Zs and tech. Let's talk about recruitment and getting Gen Zs into the workplace. Because of all this we've talked about, should that recruitment process change to cater more to their experiences, to their abilities and skills?
Now, the bad thing, or rather the unfortunate thing, is that most of us HRs, human resource professionals who are also in recruitment, they are still stuck in the old HR ways, whereby people have got to send their CVs, you've got to screen them. And of course, I'm not against that because of a factor which I'm going to mention later on. But sometimes experience is never enough. Even a sweeper could have 10 years of experience. But what's that 10 years of experience? Just sweeping, nothing else. So there is no way you're going to tell me that you prefer them over someone else who could be having more skills. Again, I don't downplay the importance of experience at workplace. So what I think recruiters could focus more on skills more than the experience, because sometimes I meet with people with so many years of experience, and something, of course I'm a young HR professional, and something which is so normal to me, to them is news. Okay, so as HRs we should focus more on skills and the quality of work compared to the experience. This one reminds me of Elon Musk, of course, the richest man in the world as we speak in 2025, the last time I checked. You see, in his recruitment, what he does, he basically asks, I'm looking for so and so. If you can do it, reach out to me and show me your projects. It doesn't say share with me your resume. Okay, so I feel like especially here in Kenya, if we could adapt such a thing, then it could have been much better. However, why do people still stick with that traditional process of recruitment? It's because some organizations do what we call the HR auditing. So if we are recruiting, or rather if I'm a consultant and I'm recruiting on behalf of an organization, I've got to give a report on how I went through that process. Because remember, in recruitment, as a consultant, it's your work to ensure that you give your client the best of all. And of course, remember that organization has board of directors, or rather board members, and they should know how the process went through. So that's still another reason why people stick with the old way of sending CVs and screening them.
Okay, so you've said experience over skills.
Yeah.
So now,
no, skills of experience.
Skills of experience.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, skills of experience.
Yes.
So I have now a question that I've been asking myself for so long. So if I'm a HR and I'm recruiting for like a startup, like for example here we have so many people who do so many things. We have marketing, we have video team. Does education play such a big role in that? Or someone has education, yes, going to top schools and everything, but someone maybe didn't even finish campus but has done so many projects, you can see potential there. Where would you look?
Again, I repeat, I look at the skills. Yeah, what can they deliver? But again, I always say, as many as we are, so are our personalities. Some HR professionals will be so deep on the education part of it. Others, like me, will be on what can that person deliver. But of course, they say there is a sixth sense that we were given, and it's called the common sense. So what's the value of having someone with academic experience and still at the same time, okay, let me give it now. So suppose you've got two people, as you've told me. This one has got the academic part of it. He graduated with that degree. This one doesn't have the academic background on that, but they can deliver so well. So as someone who is looking for results, of course, using your sixth sense, you're more likely to choose the one who can deliver on what you want. Unless your organization is a learning organization, you want maybe to, and it's not bad to mentor someone. But if you really need results, real-time results, it will be much better if you choose someone who has got the skills already.
So what's one thing you could tell our Gen Zs out there in navigating the workplace? If you'd give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
This one reminds me of something very important. They should learn also how to play office politics. Okay. And even the part whereby I was telling you how they should be rubbing their boss's ego. It's part of office politics. We've got senior politicians here in the country who've been surviving in political eras. Why are they surviving? They've been in governments in all eras.
They know how to play the game.
Because they know how to play the game.
They know how to play the people.
Yes.
As well.
So, also you as Gen Z, politicians, politics doesn't apply to the politicians we already know. Even in organization, you need that. Again, mistake number 2 they do. Of course, I understand that they've been called lazy generations. But I always tell people that if you are a student of mathematics, you know very well in probability there can be no zero. There will be always be 0 point something, but it can never be zero nor can never be negative. Let me not say. Yeah. So what does that one mean? In as much as we have in course, of course they are not lazy. They know how just to use technology to improve their proficiency. But still, we have some Gen Zs who are extra hardworking, but with no results. For instance, I told you we are Gen Xers, we are the hard workers. So we still have Gen Zs who are hardworking. I want to give an example of a politician, I don't want to mention names, who used to report at office at 5 a.m. But still, they got him out. So what does that one mean? At the end of the day, don't overwork so much if you want to survive in that corporate world. Because if today I work extra hard, my boss atajua if I give Mercy this, she's still going to deliver. And now, at the end of the day is when you'll be burnt out. Depression comes in because you're working too hard for a salary which doesn't match that. So, yeah, learn to play politics. And yes, I think that is one advice I would give them.
And to the HRs, in working with Gen Zs, what advice would you give them?
HRs we work, it all depends with their perspective. We've got different HRs with different perspectives. Actually, I've worked with older HRs who really understood me so well, because where I was working remotely. He'll just tell me what I'm supposed to do, and I do. I send it to you, and we are done. So what would be my advice to them? The bottom line is just be flexible. Okay, embrace whatever comes. Embrace positive things that come. Okay, so if a remote work is a thing, if in my role I can deliver remotely, why not? Why should I be there in that office? Okay, so let's just be flexible, and let's also be listening to other people, because remember, the other title of HRs is people happiness. So at the end of the day, as a people happiness manager or officer, it's your duty to ensure that your employees are happy, as also you balance the demands of your employer.
So what we're getting from this is they need to meet somewhere. HRs, Gen Z, upatane mahali.
Yeah, sure. And also the reason why they should adapt, here in Kenya we say wazoe mapema, or rather to get used earlier, is because I was reading another report by World Economic Forum, and they were saying by 2025 Gen Zs will make up to 28%. I don't know whether 27% of the workforce. And they still graduating every year. They are graduating every year. Because come to think of it, we know that Gen Zs were born between 1997 to 2012. Meaning the last generation right now is 13 years. Okay? Meaning more of them will still join our workplace. So it will, for our advantage, if we learn to live with them as early as now. Yes.
So Mercy, you gave us a lot of insight on working with Gen Zs. Do you have a parting shot for the audience?
Yes. I would love to leave them with a quote I learned from one of my favorite others. Is called Emmanuel. They say, if you are not in the know, you'll be out of flow.
Again?
If you are not in the know, you'll be out of flow. Meaning, if you are not updated about the current generational issues emerging, then it is going to be so difficult for you to even scale up your business. And that's why it's important for us as human resource professionals and employers and founders and CEOs to establish what we call Gentelligence. Basically, is ensuring that all the generations at workplace, they live harmoniously. And let us remember that all generations bring their own contribution. Yes, we might be young, but it doesn't mean our contribution is minimum either. Yes, thank you.
That's amazing. So Mercy, thank you so much for helping us understand how to work with Gen Zs. And it's clear to see that this generation is definitely shaping how we're going to view the workplace and how we can manage them better. So thank you so much for that.
I also appreciate it was quite an insightful conversation between us, and I hope employers and human resource professionals, they are enlightened right now.
I think they are.
Yes.
I really think they are. So, Santi Sana.
Karibu.
And that's it for today's episode. If you love this conversation, follow us for more talks on people, culture, and leadership. And if you're looking for HR consulting or payroll solutions, check the link below. Our team is ready to support.
I would advise them to use one of the laws in 48 laws of power. Is your duty to make your boss shine.
Ooh.
So, how do you make your boss shine? Now that's where we apply psychology. You've got to rub their ego. Okay? Explain more.